Either of you know anybody here that loves data?
This is Auto Collabs.
I never met a guy that loves data. Never
Anybody
did.
that thinks in ones and zeros on this call, Kyle?
I don't know. Somebody just
Never.
married an
No.
AI personality in
Did
Japan.
what?
You didn't see that? Yes.
No.
Oh yeah.
See, that's wild.
Some
This is
woman
how
in
it ends,
Japan
guys.
married an AI. She married data.
Well, that's
She-
because
she
all the
loved
dudes
data.
are. Well, that's a whole nother podcast.
She
about the
loved data
dudes.
so much she married it. There's no doubt though that the data conversation in automotive happens all the time. But one of the things that, I'm not a big data nerd. I like what data does. I like hanging around people who love data. Present company.
Hey.
But it's very much like, I don't know if you can't call it a buzzword because it's a physical thing. But I think that if you take 3 people who say the word data, they could give you 5 definitions of what they mean.
That's true.
And so I think that data, the word, the concept is something that is just starting to be talked about enough to be defined and put into some lanes in auto.
Yeah, in some lanes. I like it. Well, hopefully this conversation that we get to have today with Jason Tryfon of Authenticom, someone that deals with a lot of data, will help us put a little P's and Q's and dots the I's and the T's and all the stuff on what data might actually mean. Interesting.
Jason, thank you so much for joining us today on Auto Collabs.
It's good to be here, guys. Thanks for having me.
Okay, we like to ask this question, especially when we're also getting to know somebody.
We like to
want to know
ask
how you found your way,
how you got your
into
hair.
the retail automotive world, because everyone's got a great story, and I'm sure yours is no different.
Well, the good news is the hair is real, whatever's left of it, which I guess I'm happy about. But yeah, no. The other question is a good one. I've been in the space for 2+ decades and scaled a couple companies along the way, supporting the industry, whether it was the dealer market, the field market, the OEM level. We've had a company in pretty much everything to do with automotive at this juncture. So been around a while.
Well,
I'm a dinosaur now. It's kind of weird to say
the dealer
that.
level. Give us that story. What'd you do there?
Oh, dealers. I mean, not only do we speak dealer, or do I speak dealer, but grew up around the dealership floor, mainly due to the fact that one of the first companies I founded, a Honda dealer, was one of my first investors. And that particular company, by the name of Vital Insights, we brought to market way back in 2005. And we ended up scaling that through 52 countries. But specifically speaking, in the dealership, whether it was new car sales, used sales, certified pre-owned, service sales, F&I, et cetera, we had surveys that were coming out of the dealership in a time where everyone told us no one's going to give you their email address to be able to send a survey. And here we are. So that was the first foray, but definitely worked my way through the dealership. And before that, I carried a bag for, at the time, was ADP, which is now CDK. So yeah.
Oh, wow.
There. Kind of a been there, done that story.
I guess so. Wow, that is quite the
That's what I'm like a dinosaur now. Like my hair is gray, but like, I don't know. I think once you get past decade 2, are you a veteran? Are you I don't know. You're something.
I think these days, I mean, but I think that also depends too on what you're talking about in the auto industry. Yeah, but even when we're talking about like AI, what makes you a dinosaur? It's like, I don't know, 24 months in.
Yeah, right.
2 days ago.
I like to think of it as this: if you're still innovating stuff, then you are sophisticated.
Oh, I
If you're
like
not
that. Okay, I'm running
innovating
with
new
this.
If you're not innovating new things 2+ decades in, then you are trapped.
I like it. Well,
Yeah.
I'm sophisticated then.
Yeah,
There you
go.
What
Quite,
did
yes.
okay? So the first company you started, you had a dealer investor, which is, I think it's something that is, if you've kind of been around like automotive SaaS over the last 5 to 7 years, is very, very normal. It's like, all right, go find dealers that want to invest in the product, that can also be kind of a guiding light and advisory board to that. But that's a pretty early stake in like, hey, I'm going to create a technology company, find a dealer investor. It wasn't something that was kind of normal. So how did the idea of, hey, let's start a tech company that also has a dealer investor begin? Because that's a different route for that time period, I feel like.
That particular company started off the premise of a survey, which at the time was a paper mirror hanger hanging on off of your mirror when you pick up your car from service. We said there's got to be a better way to do this. So we wanted to write a query against, at the time, the DMS box for us to be able to get the survey in near real time, or get the information out to send a survey, I should say, in near real time. And at the time when we were conceptualizing, we're like, well, who's going to give us access to their store to go do this, right? It's like, okay, well, maybe we should have a dealer as a partner. And that individual became not only a tremendous partner of mine, but a lifelong friend. And what he's done with his particular operation is remarkable, but it gave us the insider knowledge to work with his staff, work within the store on a regular basis, interface with the DMS and the DMS company. Obviously, so we didn't want to be like infringing on anything or breaching any intellectual property rights, but it really gave us the ability to power the company. And as we started blossoming, we had a change that we had to make 2 or 3 years into owning the company, which was like, okay, we started with our roots servicing the dealers. Now we're going to move up to the next level, and we're going to service the national motor company, right? And so we no longer we stopped selling to dealers and started selling to the OEMs directly, and that's what catapulted us to the stratosphere. You know, we did over 20 OEM deals globally, and that company was a wild success. So the great thing about that was being able to interface with these executives at the C-suite level globally and be a part of structuring those programs with them gave myself and my team a tremendous amount of opportunity and pedigree within the space, because we could speak dealer, we could speak field, we could speak corporate at all levels and understand the complexities of what they needed at each facet of that business. And very, very fortunate for that.
The three of us just spent the better part of a week in Kazakhstan working with their auto industry there, and kind of that experience. And Michael's traveled more internationally than Kyle or I, working with dealers in other countries. And you start to realize there's similarities and there are a lot of differences. You obviously have purview on quite a few different countries and how they operate. What would you say are some of the similarities and differences to the US market and how dealers approach the business?
I think the US market specifically is very unique, that because of the population pull, and most importantly, the primary market areas of the dealerships themselves in the regions that they compete within, they have a specific footprint that is theirs. In Canada, for example, just to use it as an example, the primary market areas that each dealership has is much smaller. So basically what that means is you have less chance to retain a customer than you do on a larger footprint market area. So I'm going to use an egregious example, but in the 80s, you know, like if you were a General Motors dealer, you could proverbially stab people at the front door and you would know that there's more people coming in behind them. In other regions, we have to be hyper focused on the customer experience. And why that's super important is there isn't a steady stream of people coming behind us, right? This still exists to a certain extent within the North American marketplace, specifically the United States, just sheerly based on the fact that their PMAs are so large. But the industry has shifted. Now people do have a duty of care. They want to improve their CX. They want to improve every aspect of the dealership experience per se. I mean, we have dealerships with nail salons, massage parlors, golf simulators, whatever it is to cater to the experience of the customer, to keep them in the walls of the store. Dealers are doing it because they have to, right? That capture of a customer in terms of their loyalty is so important. And that's what's has changed decade over decade. But globally, I would say there's always been a different type of curiosity and care and a duty to care for the customer experience overall. And I fundamentally believe, like if you look in Europe, I mean, Germany alone has 22,000 dealerships within Germany. That's the same size as the entire US footprint, right?
That's a lot larger, actually.
Well, think about it. So if that,
I mean, a lot more dealers.
It's just the way that their dealer network is structured.
In Germany,
you have cars being sold in gas stations in Germany. Literally, you drive by like a gas station and they'll have like 3 or 4 cars in the front lot that they'll sell to you.
Right? I mean, I could see Buc-ee's in the US selling some cars.
Wait, is that new cars or used cars? You mean
both? There's new car franchises that would sell out of a gas station in, let's say, in rural Germany.
What?
Absolutely.
That's nuts.
So when you have that much of a condensed marketplace, in a geography, you better bet that the entire customer experience is more than just a transaction. It's more than that. It has to be, or else you're just going to lose the customer. So these are some of the differentiators that we've seen doing customer experience management programs globally versus just exclusively in one region.
This kind of like ties into, you know, deeper into the culture. Cause like, you know, I grew up in Canada, moved to the States. The speed at which people want to be serviced here is unlike anything I've ever seen. Like, you roll into a Chili's, dude, and if those chips and salsa are not on your plate in 7.5 seconds, people are taking their earrings out and rings off, and they're ready to fight. Where, to your point, like I was thinking about Germany and like the times that I've been to Europe and even Kazakhstan, a staple in every dealership in Kazakhstan was a coffee shop.
Like with a legit espresso machine,
like a legit coffee shop. And in Europe, to your point, Jason, like a meeting, an interaction cannot begin until they have finished a cup of coffee together and had all of the small talk.
You got it.
And I wonder, like, I don't know. I mean, a question for the group, like, would that fly in America, or is it like we want speed and we want in and out?
I mean, my view on it is we're getting there. But the reason why this shift is happening is based on the advancement of the way technology is working. I mean, I don't need to look any further than my kids in the way that they've operated, you know, since they were born. I mean, they're tablet kids. They've had tablets in front of them. Most of these kids, especially in my household, they can operate technology better than I can. Their attention spans are microseconds versus, you know, myself growing up. I was like a cusp of a millennial / I guess
Gen X,
Xennial. I'm in there somewhere. Maybe Gen X, but. So like
you're sophisticated. So
yes, I'm sophisticated.
Sophistication.
But like, you know, we have attention spans that are like seconds long, right? And that we're coming into what I would call the expectation economy. It's all been driven off technology for the most part, and based on that, people's expectations are that of instantaneous support, instantaneous feedback loops. Instantaneous, if something goes wrong, I want to tell everyone about it that I can, and you better make it right. Mm-hmm. And that's where the customer experience evolves so fast within automotive specifically, and our timing was so good. Like, we came into market in 2005. We were on a rocket ship from 2010 through to 2015. That was like when the CEM, CX space within automotive was like white hot, right? It didn't really exist. It mattered. People were understanding there wasn't a stream of people that necessarily would be coming in through the back door, right? So all these models changed how at the dealership level, dealers were servicing customers. One of the biggest changes that happened came from the data from our system from that particular company, which was they were able to tell from the service drive that respect for a customer's time was one of the most important priorities. As a result, they placed in their service drive service advisors within the service drive when you drive in. That was a radical change that was made for that particular dealer body's overall standard operating procedure. They rebuilt their facilities so that when you would arrive, you would pull in and have a service advisor at a station waiting for you.
Yeah, I guess
this is how everything evolved.
It's easy to forget that is a relatively modern phenomenon. It's the very commonplace now, right? Like, it's become expected, and when it's not the case, you feel like you're already losing.
You got it.
If you're parking and you're walking that's, you know, you mentioned in you know, some of the information that we were reviewing, that the industry is shifting from manual to automated, from reactive to predictive. And I'd like to hear your perspective on how you would define those things, specifically reactive to predictive.
When we work with enterprise customers, being OEMs, the number one thing that they ask us is, what do we need to do better, right? What do we need to change based on data? And data is the key. Like, that is the holy grail. It's the customer sentiment. It's what they're feeling. It's what they're expressing. It's how they're being treated. First of all, getting that data and serving up to them is very important, right? So like the method of communication, the method of how that gets done, that happens to be what we do here at Authenticom. But most importantly, what they're asking for is, what is the data saying? And it's that deciphering of the data to give them outcomes that they're looking for. They want to get out of like, what are we doing now versus what do you predict that's going to happen if we don't change based on the way the data is flowing or what it's saying or what the customers are saying. And through predictive analytics, we're able to see that based on the indices that come back, what the impacts would be if they made said changes or not. And I think this is where things are getting very powerful for the automotive industry, because as we started out very early on in this conversation, things were very reactive in the past. It's like, we had a bad day. The customer's upset. There's 400 behind us. No biggie. It's a different ballgame now. That capture, the cost of capture for every single one of those people coming into the dealership is astronomical compared to like 30 years ago, right? So it matters now. It really matters. And it's pretty cool to sit there and through AI and the way that our systems function, be able to look the whites in the eyes of an executive at a table for a major car manufacturer and say, this is where you're trending, right? You guys made changes here, here, and here to your operations, and here's the direct consequences of such. And if you don't change it, it's going to end up here being lower or here, right? An increase. So these are just, I mean, that's just one example from how a prediction perspective, I think the automotive industry is starting to trend now, and they're looking at data much differently. Data 10 years ago or even 5 years ago was it was commoditized. Now it's luxury. It is the most important ingredient within a dealership environment and OEM environment today, because you can rotate the data and you can look at it at so many different views that you otherwise were unable to do in the past. And that's the key. When you can look at data in different dimensions and different angles and different consequences, you're in the matrix. Like you're like, you're operating at a different level, guys.
My question is though, because I agree, I'm a data nerd, I love data, right? But if I think back to pairing the human analysis of what the needs are with the data analysis that you can see from a lot of different insights that we can gather from consumer data or time, there was that originally back when you created that first company, like, I need to be close to the dealer because they're going to have insights that I can't possibly understand. How do you pair that now with like, yeah, but there's things happening on the ground that give nuance that we have to understand, that if all we do is ask the question of some third party and aggregate it into an AI resource, we'll miss the nuance. How do you balance those? Or how can a dealer or a software company balance the nuance of, yeah, but on this day at that time, you would have never known if you weren't there, but also here's the reaction, right?
There was no ability historically, and when I say historically, I don't mean like, back in the old days, 100 years ago. No, I mean like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Like this isn't too far back where you just couldn't look at data in those dimensions. What's happened as of late, I would say within the last 3 years, is you almost have infinite possibilities to structure and look at data in any consequence. So previously, you may think you want to look at data in a certain way, but you wouldn't necessarily know how to go do it. Now you can do whatever you want. And where AI is taking a different spin on it is it's like, it's thinking ahead of you before you even know what you want, right? So
that's the crazy part, right?
And that's the differentiator, right? It's like, as a human, I can sit here and be like, okay, these are the 2 dimensions or 3 dimensions I want to look at the data. But AI will tell me, well, you haven't thought about this, and this, and here's the consequences of such. Look at it this way.
Yeah,
it's mind blowing. Right?
And also the data going. What I've noticed was right that when people do this, they do this, right? All that predictive data, and now having the ability to do that in automotive, man, I mean, as far as the amount of data we have, how much percentage wise would you say we've actually put into practical, effective use so far?
Minuscule amounts.
Like under 10%?
It's like a pinhead. We haven't even like we don't even know the what level we're playing on with dimensions of data and how we look and decipher and use data within our industry. It's getting better, but I would say it's very interesting. The automotive industry is one where we envision fast-paced, constantly evolving new features, new feature function, new model lines, new trim levels. But it's interesting because as a vertical market, it's actually one of the slower markets to adapt change, technology, and AI and enhancement. Out of, if you were to look on a horizontal scape in other verticals, like automotive would lag behind in those particular areas. The dealership model itself needs advancement, right? It's, if you think about it, it's walls, four walls, where you drive into, you have personal interactions, you have to leave your house, you know, that whole environment for, and people have been saying it for 20 years, is ripe for disruption, but it hasn't been disrupted. Because, you know, for resistance perspective, the human being still would prefer, I think, want to go into that environment and purchase that way, which is fine. But inside of those walls, there's so many technological advances that can be done to power the industry forward, that we haven't even scratched the surface on. Data is one of them. This is why I love what I do for a living right now, because like all we do is power automotive. Like literally, we are the best kept secret in the industry. No one knows who Authenticom is. They really don't. But we literally
All right,
are the,
okay, so give us that. Give us, like, if nobody knows who you are, can you
Sure.
give us, like, and you gotta be tight on this, because
Okay.
if you go like 2 minutes, you're over-splaining, okay?
Okay.
You gotta be like, shoot it up the gut. Like, you know, you've been able to say, like, hey, we deal with data, we do the OEM, you know, all of that type of stuff. But like, Authenticom is, give me like the 1 or 2 sentence thing that anybody could go, got it.
Is powering the automotive industry, and they can't function without us.
But what part of it?
It's like
All of it? The whole thing?
like, so if you take the ecosystem of every automotive software vendor, provider, company, they need data to power their programs to serve the function of what they do within the automotive ecosystem. They need the data to operate from the dealerships and the OEM in that particular regard, or the aftermarket service center, or the body and collision shop. If that data isn't coming in to power their program, there is no automotive. We're the backbone of the industry. We power all of that.
Jeez,
Amazing.
that's
Thick.
it's quite a thing.
Nice. Well, Jason, been an absolute pleasure. I love your passion for the industry, the consumer, the data behind it all, and how you can connect it from like the real user experience all the way back to the nerd stuff. It's been an absolute pleasure hanging out with you today, and thanks for joining us on Auto Collabs.
Guys, thanks for having me. Love what you guys are doing, and we'll come back anytime.
You know,
So-
like, you get talking about backbones, and then it reminds me I got a rib out, and
You got a rib out.
I got a rib out, bro.
Like, it's out.
Like when I go to the chiropractor tomorrow and he does the whole, it's to move that rib back where it's supposed to go.
That's a
That
problem.
sounds like a big problem.
But you know what it got me thinking about? What he's talking about? He's talking about this ingestion of data, this like, you know, bringing it all together, and kind of like when you got a rib out, you know when your data is out because things start falling apart downstream. Like it causes pain in the ecosystem that a lot of people don't know. So that kind of hit me because I was like, he just said that we are the thing that people don't even know is like exists
Powering
in
it all.
automotive.
Yeah. That's why
I spent a little while back, I spent some time at a vendor 20 group in Kansas City. And it is pretty remarkable how so many of the vendors talked about there being problems somewhere in the stream of the data, and how it's just a constant struggle of, I mean, from a vendor standpoint, they're talking about like, whose fault is it?
Yep.
Right? Because it's always the last one in the chain's fault. Like if you're the dealer, you're like, I don't know, it's not working, fix it. You know, and the vendors who are really being proactive are the ones just taking it as their responsibility to find out which rib is out and fixing the rib for the dealer. And I think that that's only going to continue to be an important part of the mix. But
it's typically a comma or a semicolon.
is that usually what it is?
Literally all the engineers just left. So
Ah.
it's always what it is. Forgot
Did
to
they-
close the bracket, forgot the
was
comma
gonna
on
say,
the
it's always
last
like-
every
Did you-
item, missed the extra semicolon when you weren't supposed to put it, and the whole thing goes down.
I think we need to get some engineers on the show and just like have them tell the jokes. Because I
All
know
the
there are jokes that
engineering
go with
jokes,
that. Yeah.
There's a lot of great
With
engineering
little
jokes out there.
I
snorting,
think
little
they need to
glasses
come
pushing
on,
up.
They need to come on the show with their laptops where they only communicate to each other in code, but AI narration translates what they're saying into
Done.
natural. Oh, okay, well, we're
There's
off the
a new
rails.
show.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed this episode of Auto Collabs featuring Jason Tryfon of Authenticom, we would love the comments and the click the buttons and the subscribes. We appreciate you guys being here. On behalf of Con Mouncier, Paul J. Daly, myself, Michael Cirillo, thanks for joining us here on Auto Collabs.
Welcome to Auto Collabs. Why are we recording? Are we rolling yet?